up with Sean Clark talking about the Shaw criminal prosecution as it related to a stock trade issue, and that was interesting information. Now we're kind of shifting over to the civil side of things. Joining me now is J.E. Cullens. He's a member of a Baton Rouge law firm that secured a $20 million verdict against a group of executives, including a billionaire founder of Patron Tequila, for a fraud scheme involving an oil and gas support company. A federal jury in Fort Worth in Texas, I don't know if there's another Fort Worth, found executives of Latitude Solutions breached their fiduciary responsibility to the water remediation company by essentially operating a pump and dump scheme, draining the company of its cash, which is an interesting pun as it relates to a water remediation company. Jay, you there?
Yes. Good morning, Dan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Before we get into it too deeply, tell us a little bit about yourself and your firm and how to find you if I need you.
Oh, great. Well, I'm with Walters, Papillion, Thomas Cullens. We're on Perkins, right by Lake After Hours, and we've got a real easy address to remember: 12345 Perkins Rd. So look for our sign when you drive down near between Segan and Blue Line.
And how about an easy web address? I bet you don't have that.
We do. www.lawbr.com.
That's
You can
pretty
find
easy
us.
one.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah. So, folks that don't practice law think that lawyers hit a big one by chance. Sometimes they don't really see all the blocking and tackling and lap running that's involved before you get there. But looks like on the behalf of the trustee, you did a pretty good job in the other day.
Yeah, it was a win for the home team for sure. We were hired as special litigation counsel by a bankruptcy trustee, so it's a little bit unusual. This is a publicly traded company.
So you were representing the various creditors of the company, is that correct?
Exactly. When a company like that goes bankrupt, the federal court appoints a trustee, and one of her jobs is to marshal all the assets and determine if there are any folks who possibly did something wrong, and then hire attorneys to, pursue any civil remedies that may exist. And that's what happened in this case.
Well, the creditors that thought their paper was worth nothing, it was worth a little bit more perhaps at the end of the day. I know you have the appellate process, but tell us a little bit about this in that those that were listening earlier, we heard an insider trading scheme. This is some sort of relative of it, apparently.
Yeah, similar. As is typically always the case in a civil suit, both sides have very different views of the world. There's always two sides to the story, and the defendant, the story they put out to the world was that they had the newest, latest, and greatest thing in water remediation in the oil patch. They claimed to have come up with a way to remediate water, specifically in the fracking field, so they could take these generators through what's a process called electrocoagulation. It's been around for decades. Run it through their generators and form, in an economical way, clean water. And if that were to be true, this would have probably revolutionized how folks do business in the oil patch. Great idea, if it worked, very attractive to investors.
And I know some people that claim to be able to turn lead into gold.
Yeah, the old alchemist. Yeah, if it works, it's wonderful. It's a great idea, very attractive. We had a lot of interest from outside investors, and folks put money into this company. As you can imagine, it didn't work. They lost upwards of $30-40 million over the course of their endeavor, and of course the defendant's story was they tried their best
talked about the hair guy. That makes it all the more confusing. So, this convict, Howard Appel, where does he figure in, J.E.?
Like I said, he was convicted of securities fraud, securities manipulation. He served 21 months in a year in federal penitentiary, almost a year in state penitentiary in New York. He got out of jail in the summer of 2010, and his affiliation with this company, Latitude Solutions, began within months after getting out of prison. And he and his longtime partner introduced Mr. DeJoria to the company, and this is not like the first time Mr. DeJoria and Mr. Appel ever did business together. They had a long-standing 10, 15, perhaps even longer year relationship of investing in companies and doing business together.
So DeJoria can't claim to say he was duped.
Well, he certainly presented at the trial of this matter. One of his biggest offenses was he was the biggest victim here. He had invested and lost over $11 million of his own money. And so his position was, yes, I knew Mr. Appel was involved, but I believe in second chances, and I believe so much in this technology that I overlooked Mr. Appel's background and invested my own money, which was lost. And that was, of course, Dan, as you can appreciate, one of the challenges we had as representing the bankruptcy trustee, to show that just because Mr. DeJoria lost money in this venture, that doesn't prove that this was a legitimate business. But in fact, this was a scheme to make people on the outside rich.
Well, and if I understand it correctly, the Paul Mitchell fellow is got a net worth of around $3 billion. So $11 million, he probably spends that on a Saturday night with Johnny Depp.
He could, and as we presented to the jury in closing argument, because this was a punitive damages case, we were able to get punitive damages against several defendants, including Mr. DeJoria. So his net worth was at issue. So the jury heard evidence about he's worth approximately $3.1 billion, and if you do the math, $10 million to $3 billion is the equivalent of $333 to $100,000. So, this was like a TV to Mr. DeJoria.
Well, and well within the common parameters of what's considered appropriate for punitive damage verdict, right?
Correct.
So you'll be able to hold on to that for those folks. What's next?
Well, we're in federal court, so as you're probably familiar, Dan, there's a pretty detailed process for appeals. We're in the post-trial motion phase. Working towards a judgment, turning that jury verdict, which we got in mid-July, into a signed judgment. And then once there's a signed judgment, I'm fairly confident there'll be an appeal to the U.S. Fifth Circuit. And, it'll take, you tell me, Dan, a year, 18 months, something like that, before we have a final decision.
Yeah, if not longer, but maybe they'll come to their senses and make an overture, and that it's a lot of folks that you guys are representing that got ripped off, at least according to the jury. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say this my experience in this case kind of proves what I already knew. If you're a billionaire in this good country of ours, you can kind of do what you want. So it's certainly Mr. DeJoria, if he wants to try to resolve this, he certainly can. If he wants to exhaust his appeals and string this out for as long as he can, he certainly can do that too. He's under no financial pressure, for sure.
Yeah, maybe you can go on Shark Tank and try to sell the judgment to him.
It might make for an interesting show. He's a fairly regular guest on Shark Tank. I've tried to, I don't watch too much TV, but I try to watch, when I see Shark Tank on, I try to catch him. I've never seen him personally on, but I've heard he's a pretty good guest on Shark Tank. So.
Well, we've been talking to J.E. Cullens. He's with the law firm of Walters, Papillion, Thomas & Cullens. He's had a nice victory for the people that he represents here recently. We appreciate you being on. We're going to go to break and wrap up this segment. Anything you want to say on the way out? 10 seconds or less?
No, thanks for having me, Dan, for sure. And, it was a not over, but a very interesting case, and happy for my client that we were able